doing amazing things. And so I'm going to give you just the tiniest sense of where we are right now. And where we are is in the very middle of a big damn fight. Way closer to the middle than we were. When we started this thing 3 or 4 months ago, the odds were 100 to 1, maybe 1,000 to 1 against us. No one around the country knew much about this pipeline, and so on and so forth. But thanks to all of you, thanks to the brave people who sort of anteed up with their bodies in August, went to jail, and put this on the map, and thanks to the amazing hard work afterwards, now we're in the fight. Odds are still against us. We've got the richest, most powerful industry in the entire world bent on doing this thing, but you know that they're worried because they are pouring money into this as fast as ever they can. Every time you turn on the TV, there's an ad running about these things on and on and on. They know that they are engaged, and the White House knows that they're engaged. And we won a real victory last week when the president said, I'm going to make a call on this. I'm going to stop pretending that it's somebody at the State Department or whatever. That was entirely you guys. Entirely you guys. So tomorrow will be a beautiful part of this. Okay? It's going to be really wonderful. The weather's supposed to be nice, and that's half the battle right there. And people are flooding in from all over the place. Now, I just standing at the front of the church this evening, there were people rolling in from Eckerd College down in They told me that by tomorrow, when all the buses arrive, there'll be 200 and some people from Eckerd College. That's one student in 8 at that college who will have made a long trip up there. And there were people from Washington University in St. Louis who were arriving. And a big group from beautiful St. Mike's College in my state of Vermont, where I was so happy to be. This is part of the thing, we did this, we told people to come get arrested. We said we didn't think that college kids should have to bear the burden of it, and I hope that older people would come do the job. Partly because, partly because we've been pouring carbon into the atmosphere for a long time, and partly because, given our economy, maybe an arrest record at age 18 is not exactly the best thing. Past a certain point, what are they going to do? So it was right that the rest of us kind of stood up and took that. But let me tell you, all across the country, ever since, it is young people who have been stepping up and really taking the lead. We'll hear from Courtney a little while, but man, Energy Action and all the kids on college campus all the country, there's moments when I almost feel the tiniest bit sorry for the president because he cannot go to a college campus now without there being hundreds of people there to greet him very respectfully, very politely, and very firmly, saying, and the message is always the same, and it's the message that we will be giving tomorrow. And that message is, we got excited about you in 2008 because you said things that were really important. There'll be banners with all those things on them tomorrow. Time to end the tyranny of all. In my administration, the rise of the oceans will begin to slow and the planet will begin to heal. Really important things. And we need you to make good on those promises. That's the spirit of tomorrow. It's very idealistic and very hopeful. It must be said that much of what we've learned in the 7 or 8 or 9 weeks since August has been less idealistic. We've come to understand more than we really wanted to know at some level about the process that got us this far. A few weeks ago, it became clear that the State Department had not carried out a good faith environmental review, that they had allowed the company that wanted to do this to pick another company to conduct the review, and that that company was one of their major clients. That's wrong. It came out 2 days ago, thanks to a beautiful piece of investigative reporting, that the State Department hadn't even taken with the slightest seriousness their responsibilities. They'd assigned the entire project to one 20-something-year-old staffer with no environmental experience, who for 3 years had been forced to try and somehow deal with all the power of the oil industry bearing down on her. And then, at a certain point, they just shipped her off to Lagos in Nigeria, and that was it. It was described as a process of complete disarray. And the good news is that some of our champions in the U.S. Congress have now stepped up in the last few weeks to demand that the State Department carry out a thorough review of how this happened. A few days ago, one of my great friends and heroes, Bernie Sanders from Vermont, found a few other senators to send a letter off to the State Department Inspector General saying, you have to carry out a full investigation of how this happened. Good. One of the things we'll need help on in the next couple of weeks is making sure that lots of other senators and representatives join that call. And it's not that hard to do. My colleague Rachel and I were in California last week. Where's Rachel? Someplace. There you are. And I was speaking to a group about this size in a church, and they said, we can't make it all the way out to Washington. What can we do to help out? And just sort of off the top of my head, without really thinking about it, I said, maybe you should go make a circle around Senator Boxer's office and see if I said, that's a good idea. We'll do that right away. And I tell you, they're going to do it tomorrow, so we're doing this. And it's already had its effect, because I've had about 8 phone calls from 8 different people in the Boxer office this week telling me all the things they're working on hard about this pipeline. So we're learning how to push, and that's really good. The news is, when we finish tomorrow, we will be in a good mood, and it will be beautiful and mellow and happy moment. And we got to feel it in every pore and bone, because then we got to go back and really get to work. The president's supposed to decide this thing before the end of the year. We've got a few weeks. And in those few weeks, we've got tons to do, and people will be talking about all that tonight. How we're going to be in Chicago at the Obama headquarters, how we're going to be at Obama offices all over the place, how we're going to be dealing with senators and Congress, how we're going to be doing all the things to bring home this momentum and make it count. And one of the best things that's going on as all this happens is the way that this is including people of every kind. The entire environmental movement is united in ways that it hasn't been in a very, very long time. And so many other things besides. To be able to work with people from Occupy Wall Street and as I understand it, Occupy Portland is circling the federal building in Portland, Oregon tomorrow while we're at work. It's a moment. It's a moment, and this is one of its most important manifestations. This is one of the places where we'll find out if the 1% are paying any real attention or not. Okay? We've got to make them pay some attention here. What a pleasure to look around this room and see. It feels sort of like high school reunion, you know. I mean, I've already seen a couple of people on the same cell block, and then, you know, that kind of thing. But also, just to be back in these sort of Washington churches now for 14 nights in August. I got up every night, and thanked people for coming and for being brave. We're not going to have to be quite as brave tomorrow, and I'm so grateful that you've come, and so grateful that some of our real leaders are here, some of the people who for the very, very long time have been doing this. I saw, is John Adams still here? John was one of the pioneers of the environmental. He wears the Presidential Medal of Freedom, very distinguished, and there's a beautiful piece about him today in USA Today, calling him an environmental icon, and in it he said, you know what, I really wish I'd been there in August getting arrested. We're awfully glad you're here with us now, and the power that you bring is amazing. And then from the other side of the border, someone I have never met today, you know we're working hard with our Canadian colleagues. You know that 2 weeks after our August actions, up in Canada, 200 and some people crossed over the fence at Parliament Hill and were arrested. I think in proportional terms, they beat even, in sort of per capita arrests. They may have beaten us here in the U.S. I was very, very glad to get to meet Gerald Amos, former chief of the Haisla tribe. If you stand just for a minute so we can see you. Here's one of the messages I want you all to get across. I'm just going to end here with a couple of the talking points that are key. One of the messages to get across is, do not let anyone tell you that if Keystone gets blocked, somehow they're just going to send this oil out someplace else and get it to China instead. Okay? I'm not even looking at a map, but Alberta is a long way from any place else. Okay? They're not going to just fly it to China. They're going to have to try and put another pipeline through British Columbia. But it's going to be hard to heck for them to do that because the First Nations of British Columbia so far have done an amazing job. I'm pretty sure that this spirit works both ways, that they're taking strength from what we're doing down here, just as we've taken great strength from what they're up to. So don't let anybody tell you that. And do not let anybody tell you that this pipeline is going to create jobs. Okay? There was a story that came out in the Washington Post about an hour and a half ago, and in tomorrow's edition, I want everyone to read it. What it makes clear is that the jobs claims around this are just nonsense. There's only one study of jobs that hasn't been paid for by TransCanada. It comes from our friends in the labor movement. The Cornell Global Labor Institute published this study, and it made it clear that this thing would kill as many jobs as it would create in the short run. And in the long run, obviously, the reason that you build a pipeline is so that no one will have to work it. That's the point of a pipeline. It's the same reason that when you turn on the water at your faucet, no one has to, go down with a bucket and carry it up and pour it in your sink. That's what a pipeline is, okay? And if we build it, then we're never going to get around to the place where the jobs are. Putting sun and wind and everything on the roof. I'm being told that the time has come for me to stop, and so I shall. We will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to be incredibly disciplined. We're all going to speak for 2 minutes and no more because we have serious work to do. What you do tomorrow will be beautiful and it'll be fun, but it will also be extremely important. We're sending, if you want to think of it just depending on your mood, it's either a big O-shaped hug for the president, or it's a kind of symbolic house arrest. Those are the two options. But he will get the message.